Andreen MacDonald, 29, went missing, and her husband, Andre MacDonald, was immediately suspected. When police first questioned Andre about his wife's location, he lied, claiming ignorance. Shortly after, he stopped collaborating entirely, generating further worries. As the investigation and hunt for Andreen progressed, Andre was already preparing to bury his tracks. Years later, when he finally spoke up, his account of events surprised everyone. Welcome to Crime Detectives, and today we're going to look at a strange case in Texas. We've seen instances involving problematic marriages, dominating spouses, and covert affairs before, but this one is unique in several respects. Let's dive right in. Andre MacDonald and Andreen Anderson first met in 2009 in Port Antonio, Jamaica. Both were born and raised in Jamaica. After high school, Andre moved to Florida to join his mother and attend community college. He went on to earn a degree in electrical engineering from Florida International University. After graduating, he entered the U.S. military as an officer. Andreen, 10 years younger than Andre, later moved to the United States to be with him, and they were married soon after. In the early years of their marriage, Andre was stationed in Florida, and everything seemed to be going well. Andreen earned a degree from the University of Texas at San Antonio, and the couple welcomed their daughter, Alina. Together, they launched a successful home health care business, opening several residential care facilities. By 2015, they were doing so well that they sponsored Andreen's mother, Maureen Smith, to move from Jamaica and join them in San Antonio. She lived with them, helped care for Alina, and worked at one of their care facilities. At this time, the family seemed close-knit and happy. In 2016, Andre was promoted to major in the U.S. Air Force, but he shifted to reserve duty to remain in San Antonio while Andreen continued to manage their now million-dollar business. The couple kept expanding, with plans for even more locations. By 2019, their daughter Elena was 6 years old, and their lives appeared to be thriving, until Andreen suddenly went missing, and their story took a dark turn. Andreen MacDonald lived by a strict daily routine. She was up at 5:30 a.m. to hit the gym, and at her office by 8 a.m. sharp. On March 1st, her absence was immediately noticeable. She didn't show up for work. Her employees, knowing how dedicated she was, became alarmed. After contacting the gym and learning she hadn't been there either, their concern deepened. Going to the gym was part of her lifestyle, almost like a religious practice. Repeated calls to her phone went straight to voicemail, heightening their anxiety. Panic began to set in because Andreen, who never missed her routine, was nowhere to be found. The biggest red flag? Her car, purse, keys, everything she'd typically take with her, were still at home, yet she was missing. Her disappearance raised concerns about a potential abduction. Investigators were just starting their search, but quickly realized something was wrong. Andreen MacDonald was no ordinary woman. A Jamaican beauty, she had been brought to the United States by her husband, Andre, a major in the Air Force with top-secret clearance. Together, they built a successful assisted living business, becoming millionaires in a short time. They seemed to embody the American dream. Andreen was humble, generous with her wealth, and highly respected in both her community and business circles. She was known to give her time to charitable causes and was considered a rising star in San Antonio. However, the picture-perfect life took a dark turn. Though the MacDonald home didn't initially appear to show signs of violence, no overturned furniture or obvious damage, there were disturbing clues. Investigators found blood and hair on a light switch and on the wall, making it clear that something terrible had happened. A crime scene was emerging. As the days and months passed, without any sign of Andreen, her supporters continued their search, hoping that the lack of evidence meant she might still be alive. Her family, especially her mother, held on to hope. But disturbing details continued to surface. A deputy investigating the MacDonald home found a burn pile in the backyard where they discovered a zipper from Andreen's blouse. Andre MacDonald, her husband, told authorities he had taken their daughter to school that morning and then reported to his duties at Lackland Air Force Base. Upon learning that Andreen was missing, he rushed home. He claimed to have gone to a nearby hospital, believing Andreen, who suffered from migraines, might have checked herself in for treatment. Surveillance footage showed him at the hospital asking for a MacDonald, but the patient in question turned out to be someone else, not Andreen. The investigation continued to unravel, and as the evidence mounted, the case took a chilling turn. With more questions than answers about what really happened to Andreen McDonald, Andre McDonald, the husband of missing 29-year-old Andreen McDonald, told deputies that after rushing home from work, he left again before checking on his wife because he had forgotten his phone and wanted to notify Andreen's mother, Auin, that he had found Andreen. He believed there was a sign that she might be at home and injured, but his hunch was wrong. The news deeply upset Auin, who had been holding on to hope that Andreen could still be found. Jackie, Andreen's mother-in-law, who lived in Florida, had repeatedly called Andre's phone, pleading for any word from Andreen, fearing the worst. Andreen was known for her responsibility and dedication to both her family and her business, which made her sudden disappearance all the more perplexing. Andreen was determined and driven, having created her assisted living business, Starlight Homes, in San Antonio at just 22 years old. According to her close friend Andrew Russell, Andre had supported her dream by liquidating his 401k and selling his BMW to bankroll the business. Together, they turned Starlight Homes into a multi-million-dollar enterprise in just 7 years, a success story born from humble beginnings. Andreen, originally from Portland, Jamaica, had come to America to pursue her dreams after meeting Andre, a captain in the U.S. Air Force at the time. The two met in Jamaica in 2009 when Andre returned for a funeral, and they quickly fell in love. They married just a few months later, in July, and eventually had a daughter, Alina, who became the center of Andreen's life. Jackie, Andreen's mother-in-law, couldn't believe that Andreen would leave Elena behind without a word. The situation became even more concerning when a forensic unit discovered bloodstains in the McDonald home's bathroom, confirming suspicions that something tragic had happened. Despite Andre being present at the house during the investigation, detectives noted no visible injuries on him, which could have indicated a struggle. His account of events raised more questions than answers. He claimed the last time he saw Andreen was the night before she went missing, after they had returned from their tax preparer's office and argued about business matters. He said he left to get gas to cool off and provided video evidence of his stop at a gas station. However, what Andre didn't mention were incriminating text messages discovered on his phone. The texts revealed that their marriage was in turmoil, filled with accusations of infidelity. Andreen, in one text, threatened to divorce him, saying, "If you bring up Auin again, I will divorce you myself." Auin Hall, Andreen's ex-boyfriend from Jamaica, seemed to be at the heart of the couple's troubles. According to investigators, Andreen had rekindled her romance with Auin during one of her trips to Jamaica in 2017. Their affair had been carried on in secret, but things came to light when Andreen impulsively got 2 new tattoos, one of an A on her hand and a date on her wrist. Suspicious, Andre investigated and discovered on social media that Auin had the same tattoo on his hand, with the numbers being Auin's birth date. When confronted, Andreen admitted her mistake, and Andre, furious, threatened divorce unless she cut off contact with Auin, covered up the tattoos, and promised to never return to Jamaica without him. Andreen did comply with Andre's demands, covering the tattoos and attempting to save her marriage. At Andre's 40th birthday party, just days before her disappearance, the couple seemed to be on good terms. But 13 days later, on March 1, 2019, Andreen vanished. The McDonald home, once full of life, was now a crime scene as investigators searched for any clues. They found no activity on Andreen's credit cards or passport, leaving them with no leads and a deepening mystery. Within hours of Andreen McDonald's disappearance, her husband, Andre McDonald, became a person of interest. He quickly stopped cooperating with investigators, hired a lawyer, and remained silent. The next day at 2 p.m., an undercover investigator noticed damage to the McDonald garage as Andre backed out of the driveway. The investigator followed Andre to a nearby gun shop where he purchased a 9mm handgun and ammunition. Authorities feared that Andre was planning to harm himself, and when he returned to his car, they confronted him. Andre was taken down violently, detained, and handed over to military authorities for a mental evaluation. While Andrei was being evaluated, investigators returned to the McDonald home with a search warrant and examined his car. What they found was alarming: a shovel, an axe, a hatchet, trash bags, gloves, and gas cans. Inside the house's trash can, they discovered a torn receipt from Lowe's. Detectives obtained surveillance footage from the hardware store, showing Andrei purchasing the items the day after Andreen went missing. The items in his cart, shovels, gas cans, axes, indicated a grim intent. It seemed as though Andrei might have been preparing to dispose of his wife's body. In the corner of the garage, detectives found even more incriminating evidence: a hammer and blood-stained clothing that appeared to belong to Andrei. Blood traces on the hammer and the jeans matched Andreen's DNA, leading investigators to believe that the hammer had likely been used as a murder weapon. This shifted the investigation from a missing persons case to one pointing toward murder, though there was a problem. None of the evidence definitively proved that Andreen had been killed. On March 3, 2019, the Air Force completed Andrei's mental evaluation and released him. Civil authorities promptly arrested him, but not for murder. Instead, Andrei was charged with tampering with evidence based on the torn receipt found at the house. His arrest shocked his mother, Jackie, who couldn't believe her son was capable of harming Andreen. Andreen's mother, however, was left devastated and confused. Who else, she wondered, could have harmed her daughter? Adding to the confusion was Andrei's refusal to cooperate with authorities. Investigators knew he wouldn't break under pressure and confess, leaving them with limited options. The San Antonio community, along with friends and family, banded together to search for Andreen. Former Air Force Airman Bobby Green led a volunteer search party, scouring wooded areas in hopes of finding clues. Despite their efforts, weeks turned into months without any leads. All the while, Andrei, now released from jail, took over management of Starlight Homes, his and Andreen's business, but he refused to participate in the search for his wife. Investigators dug deeper into the McDonald's relationship and discovered mounting tensions. The couple had both business and romantic problems. In WhatsApp messages shared with friends, Andreen made it clear that Starlight Homes was her idea, her dream, and that it wouldn't have happened without her determination. Friends, including Andrew Russell, grew worried as the couple's arguments became more intense. Just before Christmas in 2018, Andrew witnessed a physical altercation between the two during a party at their home. The next morning, they laughed it off, but Andrew felt uneasy, sensing that their relationship had become toxic. Then, 133 days after Andreen's disappearance, on July 11, 2019, the case broke open. A farmer named Clifton Cundy discovered human remains in a field just 6 miles from the McDonald home. Clifton had gone out with his tractor to retrieve a cow skull when he found a human skull near it. Authorities confirmed that the remains belonged to Andreen McDonald. Her sister, Cindy Johnson, was at church praying for Andreen when she received the news. The discovery shattered the family's hopes. Just hours later, Andrei McDonald was arrested and charged with his wife's murder. The case was now in the hands of prosecutors, but despite the evidence collected, blood, a hammer, torn receipts, they faced a difficult challenge. Andreen's body had been exposed to the elements for months, making it impossible for the medical examiner to determine the exact cause of death. This lack of definitive proof complicated the prosecution's case. They believed Andrei had killed Andreen, but without knowing how she died, proving it in court would be a tough battle. As the trial loomed, Andreen's family and friends could only hope for justice, but the lingering question remained: if Andrei murdered his wife, what was his motive? Andrei McDonald's trial took a shocking turn just days before it was set to begin in January 2023. After remaining silent about his wife Andreen's death, Andrei broke his silence, telling his family that her death had been an accident. This revelation stunned his mother Jackie, who he tearfully confessed to, as well as his sister Cindy, who was also on the call. His defense team was caught off guard by his sudden admission, which completely changed the context of the case. Despite their surprise, they prepared to let Andrei tell his story in court. The prosecution, however, had already built a strong case against Andrei. They presented evidence found in the couple's garage, including a hammer stained with Andreen's blood. Their key witness, forensic pathologist Dr. James Figg, testified that Andreen's skeletal remains showed signs of blunt force trauma, including a fractured spine, broken ribs, and a split jaw. Though the exact cause of death couldn't be determined, the pathologist ruled it as homicidal violence. The defense's case rested on Andre's testimony. Andre took the stand to share his version of the events leading to Andreen's death. He recounted that on the evening of February 28, 2019, he discovered at the tax preparer's office that Andreen had secretly started a new business without his knowledge. He felt betrayed and accused her of robbing him, leading to a heated argument. After briefly leaving the house to cool off, Andre said the argument escalated when he returned. Andreen confronted him, spitting in his face. Andre claimed he grabbed her head in response, which led to a physical struggle. He described how Andreen saw her bloody face in the mirror and attacked him, throwing punches. Andre admitted to tripping her and kicking her twice, hearing a strange, wheezing sound afterward. At this moment, he claimed he was interrupted by their young daughter Elena's footsteps. According to Andre, when he returned to the room about 30 minutes later, Andreen was dead. He panicked, believing there was no point in calling 911 since she was already dead. His main concern, he said, was to hide her body so that their daughter wouldn't see it. Andre confessed to dumping Andreen's body in a field, stripping her naked, and then burning her clothing in the backyard. The prosecution focused on the more gruesome aspects of Andre's actions, particularly the blood-stained hammer found at the scene. During cross-examination, Andre revealed that after investigators finished searching his home, he returned to the field, furious and armed with a yellow hammer and gasoline. He confessed to setting Andreen's body on fire and then attacking her corpse with the hammer, striking her in the face and neck. When asked why he did this, Andre said he was still angry and believed it was her fault that things had escalated to this point. Despite this brutal admission, the defense argued that Andre had acted in self-defense during a mutual fight. They emphasized that he had always believed he acted in self-defense, trying to shift the jury's focus back to their theory that Andreen's death was an accident rather than premeditated murder. Ultimately, Andre's detailed testimony left the jury to decide whether his actions were a result of self-defense or something far more sinister. In the trial of Andre MacDonald, the defense team presented videos of Andreen MacDonald, showing her giving her husband a piggyback ride and working out, highlighting her physical strength. Andre testified that Andreen could lift up to 300 pounds, and when she attacked him, he claimed he feared for his safety. In closing arguments, the defense argued it was a case of self-defense, while the prosecution insisted it was time to hold Andre accountable for murder. After 6 days of testimony and 33 witnesses, the jury deliberated for 11 hours but remained deadlocked. Half of the jurors believed Andre had committed murder, while others debated whether his actions were reckless enough to constitute manslaughter. Ultimately, 9 jurors were swayed toward manslaughter, largely due to Andre's testimony, which they felt they had to consider as there was little other evidence. The jury struggled with definitions of murder versus recklessness, but after further deliberations, a verdict was reached. Andre MacDonald was found not guilty of murder, but guilty of manslaughter. This decision deeply upset Andreen's sister, Cindy, who was appalled that Andre, who had shown no remorse for his actions, was not convicted of murder despite the brutal details of the crime, kicking Andreen, leaving her to die, and later desecrating her body with a hammer and gasoline. Cindy saw Andre's earlier phone call, where he claimed the death was accidental, as a manipulative ploy to gain sympathy before the trial. Though the prosecution was disappointed, they took solace in the fact that Andre's self-defense claim was rejected. For the defense, the manslaughter verdict was seen as a win, as Andre avoided a murder conviction. Andre's best friend, Mandy Hall, expressed frustration that Andreen could no longer tell her side of the story, believing Andre's narrative was a self-serving lie. After the trial, Sheriff Salazar gave Andreen's father, a retired Jamaican army officer, a symbolic gift, the handcuffs used on Andre, as a gesture to offer some connection to justice. Andreen MacDonald, who had moved to America, built a successful business, and was beloved by her family and friends, was gone, leaving behind her grieving family. Her mother, Maureen, and sister, Cindy, have been caring for Andreen's 12-year-old daughter, Alina, who has become the glue that holds their divided family together. Though they rely on one another for strength, they continue to mourn Andreen's death, which had a long-term impact on their lives.